First of all, because I feel singularly unqualified to be here. This is your day, ladies. It's Women's Day, and even if I have been saying for years that every day of the year ought to be Women's Day, nonetheless, the fact is that I have been accepting Ratan Kaur's at her insistence to be her chief guest for many years at the function she always holds around the 8th of March or on the 8th of March. And this time I understand Narmadeshwari has come along with the Public Diplomacy Forum. And I think it's wonderful because, to my mind, you hear a lot of cliches and a lot of bromides. There's no getting away from the fact that nobody has anything terribly original to say. But what's important needs to be said over and over again. And that is indeed that women are taken far too much for granted. And that if there's one day where there can be recognition of their special efforts and contributions, in order to sustain all of us for the remaining 364 or 5, then let it be indeed this particular day that the United Nations has voted to create. International Women's Day, of course, is meant to honor half the human race, but in many ways it is also, I think Nirima's lovely line about it, the reason for the other half. Indeed, the other half wouldn't exist without women, but equally significant is the importance of understanding that the other half owes so much to women. I myself grew up in a household of strong women, not just my mother, who was and remains, touch wood, a very strong, very tough cookie, but 2 sisters who were high achievers in their own right and who again have continued to be that. So I grew up and never doubting that girls could do everything that boys could do, and that girls were in every respect to be treated exactly as boys expected to be treated. Now that's not always the case in many Indian households, and I'm sorry to say that many of us of the disadvantaged persuasion, I can't say weaker sex because that phrase has been applied to the stronger sex for so long that it only confused people if I use it. But the fact is that the sex that has been dominating so much of world affairs for so long and is, in my view, in danger of becoming more and more irrelevant as the world evolves. And that's the sex to which I belong. And the reason is very simple. Thanks to modern technology, it has now become very clear that there literally is nothing that the world needs for its survival, propagation, and so on, that men can contribute that women can't. And there are things that women can contribute that men can't. So increasingly the question is going to be asked, do we really need men? I mean, yes, there are some essential biological purposes, but those apart, what is it that a man contributes that a woman can't, and the woman probably can't do better? Increasingly now, this has happened across domains. You're seeing it, for example, in the military, where over the last few years, there is no longer any segment of the military from which women are excluded. Recently, I don't know how many of you saw an advertisement for a car manufacturer. I don't want to give them free publicity by naming the brand, but the advertisement was fairly prominent, in which they showed essentially an all-women crew that manufactured the car at their factory in India. And that's partially, of course, because of automation, robotics, and so on that have come along. There are a number of things that may have required, quote-unquote, heavy lifting, no longer do, and brain power, skills, the use of computers and modern machines are far more important. Increasingly, in other words, the only thing that effectively gave men an advantage in the world, which was their brawn, their muscle power, is becoming essentially pointless. It's not even necessary in the military because more and more of warfare is being conducted remotely, right? I mean, some pilot is sitting in a control center in Houston, pressing various buttons and releasing a bomb from a drone above Iraq or above Syria. And these things are happening already today. So that pilot sitting at that control center doesn't need to be made anymore. Just needs to be a human being with good eyesight and good reflexes and good controls and unerring judgment as to when to push that button. So ultimately, there is going to be no domain at which men will automatically be able to say that they have precedence. I must say, though, that they continue to insist upon it. Today, I come to you as a male member of a parliament in which, despite our population being 48% female, we have barely 12%. I think it's gone up slightly, but not by much in recent years, of women in parliament, and only 2 cabinet ministers in a cabinet of 24. So you're looking at a situation where women are grossly underrepresented, even though there is no objective and analyzable reason why they should be. And that's why I think we need to keep hammering away at this. When I tweeted this morning for International Women's Day, the picture I used had a striking story, which was that there was a young schoolboy who was tired of hearing his father say about his mother, she doesn't work. When people asked him, so what does your mother do? She doesn't work. Well, he saw that she was doing an awful lot of work. And so the women of the neighboring houses in his village. And so he did a lovely painting of his mother and her friends at work all day long. Everything from washing to cooking to looking after children to the fields to housework, everything else, the whole panoply. And he did this painting, and fortunately his teachers were so impressed with it, they sent it off to the Kerala state government, which promptly put it on the cover of their budget document this year.